From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Some Arizona lawmakers are saying enough is enough as the Trump administration considers rolling back emission standards across the country. We'll show you how they're fighting back.
Plus, stop the impeachment now. That's the message Trump supporters took to the streets in D.C. today. And Cronkite News was there.
And we'll talk to the new superintendent of equity, diversity, and inclusion about her goals to help students in Arizona schools.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Mackenzie Pavicic.
And I'm Christopher Lindsay. Thank you for joining us.
This morning, some state Democratic lawmakers called on Arizona's U.S. Senator Martha McSally to oppose the Trump administration's plans to relax the standards for what comes out of your car's tailpipe.
Cronkite News reporter Melanie Porter is live in Phoenix to explain. Melanie?
That's right, guys. The Environmental Protection Agency regulates the emissions and fuel efficiency for cars, trucks, and motorcycles. The Trump administration wants to reduce these standards. Today, Arizona legislature said that change would be a step in the wrong direction.
As a mother, I want my babies to be able to spend time outdoors.
Kulumba Saenz is a mother of 3 and sees the impact polluted air has on her children.
Unfortunately, I've been forced to limit their time outdoors due to poor air quality.
But besides public health, Democratic state senators believe these clean car standards push our economy and innovative thinking forward.
Like it's been reported, Arizona has already saved $680 million at the pump, and we're expected to add over 9,000 new innovative jobs by 2030.
It means, and what it means, it's actually being innovative about how we are looking at technology, making sure that cars are much more fuel efficient. And that's important because that spurs innovation in how we move forward.
Democrats say that rolling back these clean car standards would be detrimental to the earth and our health. But the Trump administration is adamant that rolling back these standards would make cars and gas more affordable. President Trump tweeted his thoughts on this issue back in September and said lowering clean car standards would lead to safer vehicles and more car production. His proposed rollbacks would especially impact 14 states, including California, that have higher emission standards. Democrats in Arizona are calling on Senator Martha McSally to oppose these rollbacks.
McSally has the opportunity to show the voters of Arizona exactly what kind of leader she is. Whether or not a state should be able to protect its citizens from pollution should not be a political issue. This proposal is an attack on states' rights just as much as it's an attack on common sense safeguards put in place to protect us from pollution.
Since 2012, oil and energy political action committees have donated more than $80,000 to Martha McSally. Cronkite News reached out to the senator's office for her response on Trump's plan for clean car standards, but we did not receive a response in time for this broadcast. In downtown Phoenix, I'm Melanie Porter, Cronkite News.
California has even tougher rules for emissions than the rest of the country. Last month, the state's governor signed legislation that goes beyond commercial vehicles, and now it mandates emission inspections and maintenance programs for big rig trucks. The Trump administration argues California does not have the authority to do this.
Right now, the Arizona Department of Transportation is working to make the flow of traffic smoother and safer after car crashes occur on valley freeways. ADOT will establish an incident response unit to patrol freeways from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every weekday, while on-call crews will be available on nights and weekends. The department hopes having a more active presence on the roads will increase response times and prevent secondary accidents.
House committees continued their impeachment inquiry on Capitol Hill today as lawmakers dug deeper into the July phone call between President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. But outside the Capitol, it was a different story, as Cronkite News reporter Kaylee Broussard reports from our Washington bureau.
While House committees were meeting behind closed doors, impeachment opponents were marching down Pennsylvania Avenue with a simple and loud message: stop the impeachment now. Hundreds of protesters from around the U.S. marched to support President Donald Trump and condemned Democrats leading the impeachment inquiry. Many were like retired Phoenix firefighter Mike Lambert.
It's a joke. Nobody's doing anything but fighting with President Trump. They're not getting anything done that they're supposed to. He has an agenda that he wants to get done. It's an agenda we all believe in.
The rally, hosted by a group called Women for America First, featured speeches by marchers and members of Congress. But the loudest outbursts were directed at the balcony outside House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office.
This is not what the American people want. If even the Democrats knew that that's what was represented in the vote, they would say, no, we do not want that. We want a president who's going to support our own country.
It was 3 weeks ago that Pelosi announced the start of an impeachment inquiry after a White House whistleblower said the president asked for a political favor from the Ukrainian president in exchange for U.S. support. But protesters today weren't just out to stop the impeachment. They also called for Trump's re-election and greater empathy for a man who they said stepped away from his successful business to give back to his country. Diane Van Zwieten says it doesn't matter whether people support Trump, but she said voting Republican keeps away elites who want to install a new world order.
Whether you like Trump or not is totally beside the point. You are voting for the way you want your country to be for yourself, for your children, your grandchildren, and other children to come.
Deep state or not, Lambert thinks it's just time to lay off Trump.
Donald Trump, he's the great president. He's doing the best for all of us, and we need everything that he's doing in place and to make it happen.
Despite their pleas to stop the impeachment, House investigators are plowing ahead. The committees have issued subpoenas to the White House, the Departments of State, Energy, and Defense, and to associates of Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. In Washington, Kaylee Broussard, Cronkite News.
She's been an ambassador and she's been a Valley business leader.
And now Barbara Barrett is on the verge of adding another impressive line to her resume, as Heather Cumberledge reports from D.C.
Barbara Barrett is in line to be the next Secretary of the Air Force after the Senate voted yesterday to confirm her nomination. But Washington wasn't the only thing on her mind.
Arizona is important to the Air Force, and the Air Force is important to Arizona.
The Senate voted 85-7 to confirm Barrett, a Valley businesswoman, a former U.S. ambassador to Finland, and a pilot, among many other roles. She said she is honored and excited by the prospect of taking over at the Air Force.
I'm conscious of what a great privilege it is to be a part of the United States Air Force. I'm also especially attentive to the reality that this wouldn't happen without the leadership of Senator Martha McSally.
McSally appeared to be even more excited after the confirmation vote than Barrett. It was the Republican senator who put Barrett's name forward.
We then had to convince President Trump to nominate her, but that was an easy case to make. But I got on the phone and personally advocated for Barbara to be able to be in this position, and then the Senate overwhelmingly supporting you.
Barrett's nomination hearings were smooth. She talked about the need for a Space Force and faced questions about the use of Trump hotels for Air Force business. But the concerns did not get in the way of her confirmation. Arizona's other senator, Democrat Kyrsten Sinema, said in a statement from her office that Barrett is professionally qualified and will uphold the mission of the Air Force to keep Arizona families safe and secure. Both Barrett and McSally cautioned that nothing is official until it's signed off on by Trump. But that shouldn't be a problem, with the White House saying yesterday that it applauds Barbara Barrett's confirmation this evening to serve our nation's airmen and civilians as the next Secretary of the United States Air Force. The White House said Trump looks forward to working with Barrett, as does McSally. She said the president's approval usually follows the Senate vote in a couple of days.
This is a really great day for Arizona. It's a great day for our airmen and our Air Force and for our country.
In Washington, Heather Cumberledge, Cronkite News.
The Phoenix City Council voted yesterday to approve a new fee for ride-sharing services around Sky Harbor. Starting next year, companies like Uber and Lyft will be charged $4 for every ride to and from the airport. Officials say the move is intended to help cut down on traffic in the area. Rideshare services now make up 70% of commercial traffic near Sky Harbor, a massive jump from the 9% just 3 years ago. Officials also hope the fees will encourage travelers to use the free Phoenix SkyTrain.
The Arizona Department of Education has hired their first ever Associate Superintendent of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. The position is intended to promote equity in Arizona schools. Delaney White has more information about this position. Delaney?
I spoke with Erica Maxwell about her new position to find out what her goals are and how she plans to help students.
Well, what I have seen is just the implementation of student voice. And I cannot say that's a direct result of my position, but it is a direct result of the leadership of Superintendent Hoffman.
When Superintendent of Public Instruction Kathy Hoffman came into office, she saw equity as an issue in the state's education system. She decided to create the position of Superintendent of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Former educator Erica Maxwell has filled the position and spoke about what it means.
This position is not just a title, it is about the work that as a collective, really connecting people to how we can collectively and collaboratively impact outcomes. It is not just something that was started and implemented just so certain groups can be quieted. It really is about doing the work and making sure that we improve the outcome and the negative narratives that those marginalized and minimized students of color have really felt in this state.
Some of Maxwell's responsibilities include efforts to better serve underrepresented students, like working with other agencies on new initiatives and possibly even legislation to be more inclusive. She also participates in many of the state superintendent's task force groups that focus on issues of equity. Roxana Valdez, student advisor serving on the Latinx Advisory Council, spoke about the position's impact and why she thinks its creation was necessary.
I think it is necessary to have it now. I think it's necessary that the students of Arizona, like Hispanic students, like all students, like Latin students, all of us know that like things are happening, things are changing, and they're doing it because someone believes in us, and like somebody out there is like looking out for us, and it's an honor to be a part of that.
Maxwell also hopes this type of position could be an example for other schools across the country.
We want people to come to Arizona to say, look at what they implemented, look at the outcomes, the improvement, and really be a model of what can happen across this nation.
Maxwell has more than 25 years of experience in education. She was an administrator in the Chandler Unified School District and taught at both Chandler Gilbert Community College and ASU. She was also an instructional coach at Skyline Gila River, a nonprofit charter school serving the Gila River Indian community. In the broadcast center, Delaney White, Cronkite News.
Coming up next on Cronkite News at 5, from world-famous landmarks to cultural touchstones, every corner of our state is rich with history.
In just a few minutes, we'll show the push to keep the stories of Arizona's LGBTQ community alive for ages to come.
And a new study says the baby food in your pantry may be harming your child. Don't go away.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
There are a lot of historic landmarks here in Arizona, but not very many of them are dedicated to the LGBTQ community.
Reporter Andrew Christensen found out how two organizations are partnering with ASU and the city of Phoenix to change that. Andrew?
I met with members of Pride in the Arizona LGBT+ History Project to discuss why they are taking photos and firsthand accounts to crowdsource a history of the LGBTQ community in Arizona. Drivers rushing by might not know they are passing a piece of history. Here on Roosevelt Street was the 307 Lounge, one of the earliest bars that catered to the LGBT+ community. It closed in 2000. Now, a plaque on the ground is dedicated to the historic site, one of the places Pride in the Arizona LGBT+ History Project is looking to preserve.
Sharing of history is the way that we keep many of those stories alive. Because really for the LGBT community, we don't have a print history until about the mid-70s here in Arizona.
The two organizations have gotten permission from the city of Phoenix to display a timeline of LGBTQ history in front of City Hall. They have also partnered with the ASU Library to gather documents and photos to bring more awareness to LGBTQ history.
When we're in human rights and we're fighting for, our authentic rights just to be our authentic selves, it's really important to know the trials and tribulations of those who have fought for us before us.
But preserving history with limited resources isn't always easy.
A lot of times we're just given an album or a box of photos and we don't know much information. So that's going to be one of the fun things, is going through trying to do some crowdsourcing to get who are these people, where were they? Sometimes we know where they were, sometimes we have not a clue as to why these people are together.
For some, preserving the history is vital to knowing a piece of themselves.
I don't always know the history, so being able to see the real artifact, I think it hits home more and it sticks with you more than just going through a magazine.
Phoenix Pride is hosting the Rainbows Festival next month and plans on sharing a timeline of LGBTQ history at the Phoenix Pride Parade next year. In the Broadcast Center, Andrew Christensen, Cronkite News.
A new study has once again found numerous toxic heavy metals in baby food.
A test of 168 different products from major manufacturers found lead in 95% of samples, arsenic in 73%, and mercury in 32%. Trace amounts of each metal are linked to impaired brain development in children. The worst offenders from the test were products containing rice, sweet potatoes, and fruit juices. Doctors suggest pureed vegetables, oatmeal, and avocados as safe foods for infants. After the break, Arizonans know a thing or two about innovation.
We'll take you inside an event celebrating the technology of tomorrow right here in the Valley.
Are we stuck wearing our summer clothes, or can we break out those fall sweaters, fall boots, and fall scarves? I'll have the answer for you after the break.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem. Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
An innovative idea to change the world can come from anywhere or anyone. At an event here in Arizona, people with diverse backgrounds joined together for a day full of learning, collaborating, and networking. Cronkite News reporter Mariah Gallegos attended Desk Tech for a glimpse at the technology of tomorrow. Mariah?
Startup companies and leaders in businesses from across the valley and different states shared their reasons for attending and what they remember most about this year's event.
Tina Swice is creating a virtual reality game for the rehabilitation of children's neurogastrointestinal system.
My son was born with a very rare birth defect, and I realized that if you can't find solutions, you have to be the change.
She attended the Desk Tech informative sessions to hear from others' experiences.
A lot of the sessions were very informative, and they were not just informative in general information. They were giving you the latest in tech and the latest in the technology that you want to learn about, especially like in artificial intelligence, in the AR. The sessions were also very interactive, and they had amazing opportunities for networking. So I met a lot of amazing people that I need to follow up with right after.
And much like Swice, many others were excited to be surrounded by like-minded people.
You get to meet people that have done the work themselves on startup. They give great input, great ideas, and when you're trying to do something that's completely different that nobody's ever done, first thing people look at you like you're nuts. I had an engineer from American Express when we started out said, "You're nuts." And 7 years later, I bumped into him again. He says, "Keep going."
And they found inspiration and advice from Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak.
One tip would probably be never listen to one tip. Because it's funny, but every startup and every person is different.
This year, winners from a previous innovation challenge participated in the Venture Ready graduation and presented their company pitches. Alan Lerner is the CEO of a startup that helps people with home renovations. He's hoping to find more funding for his idea.
Having a ton of great entrepreneurs in the room, a lot of great VC companies, with an opportunity, and just a great experience overall.
Tonight, judges will select one company to receive the Arizona Commerce Authority and DesTech AZ Entrepreneurial Excellence Award. In the control room, Mariah Gallegos, Cronkite News.
Looks like we've got a cool down headed our way across Arizona and just in time for the weekend.
Annika Abbott is standing by in our Cronkite News Weather Center with the details. Annika?
We do have a little bit of a cool down, but unfortunately it's not quite sweater weather yet. We are still stuck in Arizona sweaty weather. So let's look at the temperatures across the state as they are right now. In the Grand Canyon, it's 69 degrees as usual. That's around the coolest that we're going to get. But we also have lower temperatures here in the south. We have 90 degrees in Tucson. But if we look across the nation, I'm really happy to be here in Arizona. It is cold everywhere else. In Seattle, it's 56 degrees. Over across the country, 50 degrees in Chicago. Whereas here we are stuck in 92 degrees at the moment in the valley. But if we go look later into the evening, it's going to cool down a little bit. Sunrise starts a little bit earlier than what we've been used to. And there are some great events coming up this weekend. Maricopa County Home and Garden Show is this weekend. And guess who's going to be there? The one, the only Martha Stewart. So if you want to get those DIYs running, be sure you get there early. We also have the Southwest Cider Fest and Beer and Bones where you can dine with the dinosaurs. And looking ahead into that weekend weather, if you're going to those, you'll want to go out on Saturday. It's less than 90 degrees. Looking into the rest of the week, it is still around that 90 mark. No hot pumpkin spice lattes, just ice ones this week. Have a great one. I'm Annika Abbott in the Cronkite News Weather Center.
A study released by professors at Western Carolina University has determined America's greatest sports rivalry. And Chris, can you guess who it is?
The Giants and the Dodgers.
Not quite. It's actually our very own Arizona State Sun Devils and the U of A Wildcats. Apparently, they hate each other more than any other pair of sports teams in the country. But the main reason for that is because the two teams don't seem to have any other rivals.
So now we want to hear from you. What is college football's biggest rivalry? Just go to our Cronkite Sports Twitter feed to vote in our live interactive poll. As of now, over 200 of you have voted, with 52% agreeing that the study that says ASU and U of A have the best rivalry is correct.
ASU football is now ranked 17th in the country.
We catch up with head coach Herm Edwards as he takes his wisdom from the gridiron to the classroom.
With George Washington Law School Dean Alan Morrison, who helped inspire an Arizona public interest law group. And we'll hear about a new PBS show that focuses on art in Arizona.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, backlash to withdrawal. President Trump's removal of U.S. troops from Syria sparks new violence. It's coming up after Cronkite News and Arizona Horizon on Arizona PBS.
ASU head football coach Herm Edwards has always said that as a coach, you're also a teacher.
And as of a few months ago, that became true for him. Cronkite News reporter Matthew Roy has the story.
Thank you, Kristen McKenzie. Edwards has left his mark on all levels of football. First as a player, then as a coach, and then, and most importantly to those at the Cronkite School, as a media personality and analyst for ESPN. Now, he'll be bringing lessons like don't press sand to classrooms down on the ASU's downtown campus.
Exciting fixture for us here at the Cronkite School, and that is conversations, plural, with Coach Herm Edwards.
As of the spring of 2020, ASU head football coach Herm Edwards won't just be on the sidelines, he'll be in the classroom too, as a professor of practice at ASU's Cronkite School of Journalism. But how did this idea even come up? Well, Edwards was convinced by his former agent and current ASU athletic director Ray Anderson, along with school president Michael Crow.
It was just kind of a conversation, and Dr. Crow was really kind of spearheading it. He says, why wouldn't we do this? And I said, I'll be fine to do it if you want to do it in the spring.
After that, Anderson had to convince Cronkite School Dean Chris Callahan, and well, that wasn't very hard.
Chris was gleeful and instantly supportive and very aggressively wanted to move to make it happen.
When he called me, Ray and I know each other very well, and he called me, and he was about halfway through the idea. I'm like, I get it, I love it, let's do it.
Next time Edwards is in one of these classrooms, it won't be as coach, it'll be as professor, and he might just have a few surprises up his sleeve.
What he will also do is bring so many of his friends and colleagues and peers in the business here to ASU's campus to add their voice to what he's trying to teach and present.
Whether I bring in folks along with myself that have worked in television, that would kind of be interesting too.
The format for the classes or lectures is still up in the air, but one thing is not. Edwards and Anderson will be the first football coach and AD duo in the Power 5 conferences to also be faculty members. The fact that they are also the only African-American duo has Anderson hoping this opens the door for others.
And the fact that we're two African-American men able to have this opportunity, we just want to make sure that it's an opportunity and a message that gets across to all the folks who may be interacting with us, notwithstanding race, color, religion, creed.
Edwards and Anderson have been friends for over 25 years and are now innovating and making history in the Valley of the Sun Devils.
That's it for Cronkite News Tonight.
For top stories anytime, go to arizona.azpbs.org.